Thank you for joining today's session in the Skills and Learning track. I'm delighted to welcome my friend and colleague, Melissa, who's from your hear accent, you'll realise is not a local to the UK. The topic of today's session, which is 8AJ, is focused on the skills that are needed for future careers. So Melissa's looking to try and cover the whole bit of levels here from, so different people will look at this problem from different sorts of levels. So without further ado, I will hand over to Melissa. Just one final thing before I do, you'll notice you've all been joined in mute as usual. If you have any questions, please pop them in chat. If there's anything that looks like it's important for everybody to understand, I'll raise that with Melissa at that point, otherwise we'll leave them to the end. We may, depending on numbers, just open all the lines at the end so that we can have a conversation rather than using chat. But we'll see how we go. So, Melissa, all yours.
All right, super. Thank you, Paul. For those of you who know me, you probably recognize that my voice is a little scratchy today. So I might be talking a little bit slower than normal, which is probably a very good thing for the world. For those of you who have heard me before, you know I talk rather fast. And as Paul mentioned, you can also tell that my accent is not local. That said, I will be jumping on a plane on Sunday and heading your way, which I'm really excited about. I'm Melissa Sassy, Dr. Melissa Sassy. I'm based out of Grapevine, Texas, which is what I call home base. But from the 7th through the 17th, I will be calling the UK my home base. So thank you for welcoming me back home again. I say back home because I actually did a couple of different stints in the UK throughout my educational and career journey. I went to business school in London and kind of still consider that my stomping grounds. And I lived in Harrow at one point in my life where I did an expat assignment for a year and a half. So thank you all for being here today. We're all going to cross our fingers and hope that my voice cooperates. For the last few days, I've been trying to be as quiet as possible, which is hard for me, to make sure that it holds up. And what I'll probably end up doing in the middle of the presentation is grab a cough drop to make sure that I don't cough all over everyone. Don't worry, we're virtual. And don't worry, I also feel okay. So I'm going to just share my screen real quick. And it should be showing now. Paul, I just want to check and make sure that you can see my screen and it says Dr. Sassy's trifecta of skills. Is that what you can see, Paul?
Yeah, we can see all of that and we can hear you. You're a little bit quiet, but otherwise.
Let me double check and make sure that I'm in the right, that I've got the right microphone.
I think we can just turn our volume up, so don't worry.
Okay, super. Sometimes, the technology is not our friend. It looks like I've got the right microphone here, but it could be that my voice is just not projecting as it normally would in a normal, when I normally speak. So let's jump in. So for those of you who are on Twitter, you can find me at Mentor Africa with a K. I share a lot of stuff, both personal and professional. So enter at your own risk. And I do a lot of talks throughout the world, both virtually and in person. I'm getting ready to go back to in-person stuff next week, as I mentioned, and kicking that off with a bang in the UK. I will be in London, Wolverhampton, and Hull. So really looking forward to that. I also share a lot of stuff on technology entrepreneurship, youth empowerment, tech skill building, future of work, all kinds of different things. I'm very involved in tech for good. So I will often do, calls for, volunteers and, people who are interested in giving their skills forward. So if that's something that wakes you up in the morning, if you're passionate about making the world a better place and doing that through technology, feel free to give me a follow and reach out to say hi. So a bit about me. First off, I have this little motto that I stole from my friend Donna Suckar. Donna works at Microsoft. She is the chief technology officer at the within Microsoft's accessibility team. She is a proponent of including people with disabilities and making sure that the products that are created by big tech are truly inclusive of those who might have differing abilities. She is an entrepreneur, she's a fashionista, and she's also a roll up your sleeves engineer. I look up to her, immensely because of her ability to be what I consider an and not an or. And that means she doesn't feel like she needs to choose between whether she's an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, an engineer, a fashionista, a diva, and all of these different things that kind of make her different and unique and special. Essentially, her superpowers, even when those things may not go together in a stereotypical definition of what an engineer should be. So for me, I am both an entrepreneur, meaning I'm the CEO and founder of my own nonprofit. It's called Mentor Nations. We've taught tens of thousands of young people to code in about 12 countries. We have a co-working space, a robotics lab, and an IoT lab in Tunis, Tunisia. So sandwiched in between Algeria and Libya, which is where I have family, and that's where kind of some of my family roots come from through marriage, not by blood. I'm also an intrapreneur, meaning I am innovating inside of someone else's company. In this case, it's IBM. I'm also the CEO and founder, as I like to say, or the chief penguin of IBM when it comes to running a startup accelerator called IBM Hyperprotect Accelerator, where we have 100 startups that have decided that they would like to run on the most secure server in the world. So as you all know, as fans of IBM we have made our Linux One machines available in the sense of looking at it as a service. So these startups are all building their workloads off of Linux One machines, and they're all doing very interesting things when it comes to building and scaling and creating the next generation of companies in fintech, health tech, insurtech, reg tech, but also the music industry. I have the wonderful opportunity of working with a celebrity founder in my role, Timbaland, for those of you who may or may not be familiar with him. He is a Grammy award-winning music producer who has worked with Madonna, Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, Justin Timberlake, all kinds of very interesting singer-songwriters. His startup, they're building off of a Linux One machine, and they are in the process of implementing both blockchain and AI running off of Z. What have I learned from a lot of the activities that I do? I run a student and entrepreneur experience within the IBM division of IBM, and that gives me an opportunity to work with students of all ages to help them find careers in tech, build their skills, and also stay in tech. And that's gotten me very interested in this concept around the future of work. Naturally, digital skills is a big component of that. And I believe that whether you're an engineer or someone who's working in tech, but in a more business-oriented field where you're not, coding, you're not doing, systems admin or whatever it is that you do in your everyday, we all need to understand the basic building blocks of what it means to code, what is computer science. I'm also a big youth advocate. I believe that youth should have a center or should be part of and front and center within anything and everything that we do. It's very hard to create a team or products and services that are truly reflective of our audience and our variety of customers if we're not being inclusive in our team. I do a lot of writing, both academically and non. Keynote speaker. I've spoken at CES, a variety of different UN events. I've judged hundreds of hackathons, whether that's through the startup competitions, whether that's through the World Bank or the IEEE and others. I'm also the chair of the Digital Skills and Readiness Working Group within the IEEE. So the largest engineering organization on the planet, 400,000 members worldwide. And I was part of creating the first world standard for what it means to be digitally literate, digitally ready, digitally intelligent, if you will. I'm a, quite an academic as well. However, I believe in gaining practical skills, so not just pontificating over the theory of this, that, and the other, but what are those practical things that you need to do, those experiences that you need to have to be prepared for the future. I'm an avid volunteer, so I'm a big fan of broadening my skills and experiences by giving forward with nonprofits, even, outside of my own, as well as the startup community. So that's a little bit about what makes me an and not an or. So I don't believe I need to choose between being, this or that, this or that. I'm all of these together. So I also believe in making the impossible possible. And I think your mindset is very important when you're thinking about preparing for the future. Sometimes you look at something like, there's no way I can achieve that. There's no way I can do that. That's absolutely impossible. I think based on my experience, there are some things that are, absolutely impossible, but I've seen them come to life and seen them happen. And maybe it wasn't perfect, and maybe I didn't get everything I wanted, but a lot of impossibilities have become possible, based on that simple fact of, I'm going to do this. I believe I can, so therefore I will. I am a reformed perfectionist, meaning I used to always strive for perfection, and I get bummed out and I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I had this idea of what, my results would be, what my impact would be. And if I didn't achieve that, I was bummed. I was sad. I was, frustrated. What did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? Am I an imposter? Do I deserve this seat at the table? Am I a failure? And what I realized is that sometimes good is good enough. And you don't always have to be perfect. And sometimes things are going to go wrong, and you're going to make mistakes, and sometimes it's going to be your fault. And sometimes you're going to do dumb things, and you look back and you're like, God, why did I do that? This is why I also have this thing called a Thrive Hive. And these are your group of cheerleaders, your squad, your group of allies, your sponsors, your mentors, your mentees, the people who are there for you and with you relentlessly through the good and the bad. And they're there not to be your negative auntie, your negative Nancy, critiquing everything that you did yesterday and everything you're going to do tomorrow, but those that are always looking positive and the things that you're bringing to the table and reminding you that you're not an imposter. You deserve a seat at the table, and that whatever you had in your mind in terms of that perfect outcome, in their mind, you actually achieved that perfect outcome. One of the big things I think are necessary, that I think is necessary for the future of work, is truly believing in yourself and having empathy. So a lot of what I'll talk about will be these kind of core skills, but keep in mind that believing in yourself and having empathy are front and center across all of these. Empathy for me is one of the most important things to have in life, whether that's personally or professionally. So again, see that as weaved into everything here. So just don't forget, you are not an imposter. You deserve a seat at the table. Doesn't matter what your skills, experience, strengths, weaknesses, superpowers are. Time for a drink, excuse me. All right, back on track. You deserve a seat at the table. You're not an imposter. You do belong, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you are. We all have something to share and learn from one another. All right, so I know we're all worried, I think, about the future. I know I am. Even though I consider myself to be, quite skilled in many respects, I know that my future job may not have even been imagined yet. Even if I think I've got a good handle around who I want to be, what I want to be, where I want to go. And this is especially relevant for, young people who, look and say, well, wow, how do I get prepared now for what's next if I don't really understand, what's going to be created? And you even may be the one creating what the future looks like. So how do we do this? How do we go about becoming future ready? We're going to talk about that. So, we hear this word or these words, fourth industrial revolution. And, lots of innovation happening, lots of digital disruption happening. The way that we work and live and play and interact with others, collaborate with others, learn from one another, work, all of this stuff has changed and is continuing to change. The pandemic has created a lot of opportunities. It's also brought to light a lot of cracks in the system in many respects. there are, people like Elon Musk, for example, who might look at things from a very long-term perspective of let's go into space and let's prepare for the next frontier. Let's prepare for when we have this AI buddy who's a reflection of ourselves as we're, floating around in the Milky Way in a little capsule with our AI buddy. Okay, we're not ready for that. Let's focus on something that's, more near term. What we're going to focus on is what I call the trifecta of skills, or Dr. Sassy's trifecta of skills. And this is really 3 components. Number 1, digital skills and readiness. Number 2, professional development skills, or what I like to call habitudes. So habits and attitudes combined together to become habitudes, and entrepreneurial thinking. Whether you're going to be an entrepreneur or not, you need to know how to think like an entrepreneur. Okay. So first off, and by the way, I do a lot of talks on a lot of these different topics. Each one of these, I have different kind of TED Talks. That's almost like a 20-minute TED Talk, or an hour-long activity, or a week-long activity. So a lot of this stuff you can, learn more about in other sessions that I lead. I know many of us here are not students, but in the chat window, I'm going to leave a link should you want to join our student hub. Again, you may not be a student, that's okay. I do a lot of talks underneath that platform. They're all free, they're all virtual, and I kind of look at it as this. We're all students of the world. We're all lifelong learners. So if you enjoy today and you want to dive deeper, that will be an avenue that you can go to or turn to kind of refine some of these skills. And again, they're all free and virtual, open for anyone, anywhere. All you have to do is register in the platform, which again, I'll provide a link to that shortly. All right, so skill set number 1, digital skills and readiness. What you'll see in terms of this bucket of skills, if you will, see these as competencies to master. This is part of the IEEE standard for what it means to be digitally literate. We're measuring this, we're looking at this, we're reporting out on this, well, planning to anyway. That's the vision. This came from a nonprofit based out of Singapore called the DQ Institute. I'm going to put that in the chat window should anyone be interested in checking them out. And Paul, if you could test that link to make sure that I spelled it right and it goes to the DQ Institute, that would be super. You can learn more about this framework there. You can dive deep into this framework there. I've also got my own curriculum, my own content that really expands upon their work, but that's really where it came from. All right, cool. So if you think about, you being prepared for the future of work, these are the buckets of things that you need to have experience with, whether you're a consumer, a creator, a maker, a doer, a thought leader, or influencer. And see this as kind of a wheel of competencies where you're dialing skills up and down, depending upon, whether you, again, are looking to be a consumer of tech, a creator of tech, or empowering others through your knowledge. So they're kind of like 3 points in time, if you will: basic, advanced, and we'll call that rock star. So the basic is you can perform all the things that you need to perform in your personal and professional life. You're a consumer of tech. So let's say you're consuming social media, meaning you're reading, you're able to set up an email address, you're able to keep yourself safe online, you're able to read materials online and not get too emotionally charged where you're feeling compelled to, react and fight and do God knows what. You understand the basic building blocks of computer science. You understand what AI is about. You understand machine learning. You understand data and analytics. You understand your rights, your rights to privacy. You understand what's happening with your data and where it's going, which obviously is a very important, point of being online. By the way, if you didn't know this, 50% of the world is not online. 50%, it's a huge number. Rural communities are not the only ones that suffer. Urban communities are usually more connected, but one of the biggest challenges with their connectivity is not about do they have it? It's about affordability and adoption. Is it meaningful for them? Do they want to use the connectivity that's in front of them? So we talked about the consumer element, middle of the road, meaning you're, a maker, a doer, a creator. So this would be you're creating content. You're collaborating with others online. You are creating mobile applications. You're creating e-commerce solutions using computer science, using your AI skills, using your machine learning skills. You're actively engaging in creating blogs and videos and sharing those materials in an online fashion. So that's kind of you're a creator. Okay, so you've got consumer, creator, and then the last one is you are an influencer, a thought leader, an educator, meaning you understand how to consume and you're doing so in a responsible, safe, secure, effective fashion. You're a creator, so you're making money out of it, or you are creating economic opportunity, or you're creating products and services and solutions that other people are using, whether there's money involved or not. And then the last one is you're teaching others. You're inspiring others to go out and be better consumers, be better creators. Naturally, you could still be a thought leader or influencer and influencing others to make bad decisions, creating, havoc in the world. Naturally, we don't want to go in that direction. So if you think about what each of these components are, digital identity is, what's your identity online versus offline? Who are you? What's that persona that you have online? Your personal brand, if you will. What are others able to learn about you in terms of your footprint? And again, that can be used for good or for nefarious purposes. How are you using the internet? Do you have healthy habits online? Or is your screen time too much where it's impacting your health? Or is it impacting your finances? Are you productive? Are you spending, excessive amounts of time, gambling or doing other types of unsavory activities that are not necessarily being used in moderation, if you will? Are you keeping yourself safe? Are you maintaining your security or the security of your organization? What kind of emotional intelligence do you have? Are you able to control your emotions? Are you able to identify when others have strong emotions? Are you able to diffuse situations or back away or report things in the right way? Communication, and that's where kind of social media collaboration, Zoom, for example. How are you able to communicate? It could be Slack, it could be, any other kind of communication mechanism. Literacy, by the way, this is where computational thinking, learning to code or computer science, AI, machine learning, all of these different components of your hardcore, engineering skills come into play. So again, you're dialing those up and down. I'm not saying everybody should be an engineer. I'm not saying everyone should be a data scientist, but all of us, whether you're 4 or 104, should understand the basic building blocks of computer science, of AI, of machine learning. It should be demystified. And then the last one is, what are your rights online? So if you create some content, if you create IP, if you got your own NFT or artwork, what are your rights of ownership? All right, so these are the 8 skills when it comes to being digitally skilled and ready per the DQ Institute, as well as the IEEE standard that was created last year. All right, cool. Before I move on to the next section, I'd love to just pause for a second and find out if anyone has any questions. Paul, from your side, any questions, or does anyone have any questions that they'd like to raise before I move on to the next section? You can use the chat window. For now, I think we have a pretty small group, so at the end, I think it might make sense for us to open up the microphones. Oh, an NFT reference. Do I own any? I don't actually. However, I am going to be in Miami with Timbaland the last week in November, first week in December, and we are going to do the largest social good NFT drop for youth in the world. We're doing a hackathon. It's an IBMZ hackathon with an organization called Bridging the Gap. And we are going to be with youth learning how to make and create NFTs. And then we're going to do an NFT drop. I have no idea how to create an NFT. I've never done it before in my life. So I look forward to learning as well. Let me get a link for Bridging the Gap. So give me 1 second. All right, hold on. Let me just, hold on. Let's see, Bridging the Gap. I guess bridgingthegap.org. Hold on 1 second. Let's see if that's it. Oh, no, that's not it. Let me see if I can find it online. This is the organization that's running it. I'm going to put a link in there. Let's see if it's in there. And if it's not, I'll give you an, if you don't find the event in there, follow me on Twitter, ping me a message in Twitter, and I can try to track down a link. Right, I just put my Twitter handle in there. So if you don't find it, shout. Okay, great organization,
yeah,
by the way.
Questions at the moment, and that other link did work, Melissa.
It did work. Okay, super. This is just an example of an amazing young woman who is taking digital skill building and putting it on steroids. She's in her 20s. She decided not to go to university because she had some health scares when she was young and missed most of high school, and was just, learning from home and at a very different, a very different place than her classmates, and decided, you know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to be the CEO and founder of my own company. He enables, thousands of students, of young people all over the world to learn tech skills, professional development skills, help them start their own companies. And she actually, speaking of the UK, she won one of those fancy Queen awards. I can't remember what it's called, but one of those awards for young people that's, for, young change makers. And one of my favorite pictures of this young woman is a picture of her with the Queen of England, and her curtsying in front of the Queen. So she is a wonderful thought leader. I aspire to be her one day. All right, perfect. I don't see any other questions, so let's get back to the presentation. And Paul, can you see my screen again where it's got the presentation? Is that what's showing? Super, awesome. Oh, I see Herb. Hey, by the way, Herb is in the audience. I am going to see him at the University of Wolverhampton on the 10th of this month. So really excited to go and visit your students. So big shout out to you, Herb. All right, so second, what do we got? This is what I like to call habitudes. Again, habits and attitudes. These are things that people often refer to as soft skills or professional development skills. You find a lot of these things mentioned in different studies, whether that's through LinkedIn Learning or the World Economic Forum, or a lot of these big organizations like the OECD that tell you what are the things that you need to know to be prepared. This is my rendition of that, but you'll see it's very similar. And again, I have 20-minute TED Talks on each of these, and I also have deep dives on each of these that you can find on, where you can find events on our Student Hub. And I know Paul added a link. I'm going to add it again. Register there. It's a great place to learn, whether you're a student or not. Great place if you're an educator, want to take that to the classroom, but also if you're an employee trying to figure out, hey, I've got, half an hour free. We never do, but I want to be inspired. I want to think about investing in myself. It's a great place to go. All right, so competencies to master, critical thinking. All right, we get it. We got to be data driven. We have to know how to think critically, to evaluate options, and to come up with best case scenarios. That's always going to happen, in business, in whether you're a technologist, whether you're a business leader, doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you are, big skill. Problem solving, we all are going to have problems that come up professionally, personally. We have to know how to, get through the muckety muck and solve problems. We have to know how to work with others, collaborate with others. COVID-19 has taught us that we have to be adaptable, and that our world can change in an instant and turn everything upside down, things that you least expect, and you have to roll with the punches and find a way to get on. We also have to have the ability to persuade others, to influence others, to get them to see your point of view. And again, as I mentioned, empathy is key throughout all of this. We also have to think about our personal brand. Who are you? What are you? How do you bring your own story, your own experiences, your own superpowers to life? Online and offline, they are connected. Your future employer, your current boss, your boss's boss, they are likely looking at you online, whether you know it or not. Trust me, I know, because I've said some things that they come back to me, Melissa, really? And it can be used for you or against you. And imagine, if you are better able to control your own narrative, define how others see you and speak about you when you're not in the room, you're going to be better off than them creating that narrative for you. That means creating content. That means being present in the right channels, in the right mediums, with the right messaging, devoting time to it. Emotional intelligence, we mentioned that in the last section. Super important. Empathy, managing your relationships with others, recognizing when crucial conversations could go awry, having better ways of managing yourself, managing your relationships with others, recognizing when emotions are high, when you need to take a break and a breather, when others should take a break and a breather, and when it could, their emotions impact your relationship. This affects your ability to gain access to new jobs, to advance your career, to advance your salary. It's not just about, are you intelligent? Do you have skills? By having emotional intelligence, you actually get a leg up compared to others. Tons of studies on this. If you're interested in really exploring more around emotional intelligence, one of my favorite authors is Daniel Goleman. I just wrote him in the chat window. Bunch of books. He's got these small little books that make up a big set. I have them. I have a bunch of his books. I consider him to be either the father or maybe the godfather of emotional intelligence. I've had an opportunity to meet him. I spoke with him at a World Economic Forum conference. Lovely man, extremely intelligent, and as you might expect, very emotionally intelligent. Last one, self-care and mindfulness. Know when to take a breather, know when to take a time out, know when to focus on you and your health, your mental health especially, and not just be a workaholic like many of us are. My voice would probably be better today if I weren't a workaholic. So there you go. Naturally, I could add a gazillion other, competencies, to this list, but this is a nice checklist. So when you're thinking about, hey, I've got 10 minutes free, what are some things that I could do? You can even Google any of these and read, articles in Forbes or Fast Company or, Harvard Business Journal, or come to our student hub and read a little bit more about these things. Attend one of our events. All right, I'm going to pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions about the habitudes section or professional development skills. Don't be shy. Feel free to ask. So I'll pause for just a second while I also get a drink of tea. Okay, I don't see any. So I'm going to keep rolling forward, but I do have the the chat window open. So if anyone does have a question, I'm happy to answer. All right, super. Let's jump into entrepreneurial thinking. Again, you get the picture, 8 competencies, wheel. You dial them up and down depending upon what you're interested in, what your superpowers are. Innovation and creativity, the ability to innovate and create and make and do and connect things that are unconnected. Really identify new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. Design thinking. Empathy is a big part of this, being able to put yourself in others' shoes. Really listen to your audience. Surround yourself with your audience, with your clients, with your customers. Brainstorm new ways of doing things and thinking about things. Solving problems by, again, talking with your audience, staying connected with your audience. Your audience could be your customers, it could also be your team. It could also be your family. Essentially, it's those around you. Be inclusive, be diverse. It's how do we prioritize? We're going to have a lot of trade-offs. We're going to want to do everything. But if we focus on doing everything, we're going to be everywhere and nowhere, get nothing done. Especially important if you got your own startup. Especially important if you've got your own kind of mini company inside of a company like I have, the IBM Hyper Protect Accelerator. Started out scrappy. It's now becoming a thing. We're trying to scale it. I had to prioritize a lot. Didn't get everything done I wanted to. Had to think about my audience. Had to be innovative and creative because it was something brand new. IBM Z had never thought about startups before. Something I came in to create. Had to do a lot of influencing, a lot of persuading. I had to adapt to a new company. Was different experience for me. I came from Microsoft before being at IBM 3 years ago. We had different acronyms, different way of thinking, different culture, different team members, different experiences, different technology, pros and cons to each of those things. We have to have a growth mindset. And what that means is knowing that you're going to fail. You have to continue to strive for the best, but recognizing that sometimes good is good enough. Always attempt to grow and have new experiences, take on calculated risks, inspire others, enable others to shine. Empowered women empower other women. Empowered people empower other people. Don't feel bad if you fail. Learn from it. There's no such thing as failure if you learned, right? It's also knowing how to pitch, knowing how to create a pitch deck, recognizing who your audience is, your target market, creating buyer personas, knowing who your buyer is, what makes them tick, what are their pain points, their joys, their aspirations, their pain points. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why does it matter? What kind of money are you going to make? How are you going to make the world a better place? What kind of investment do you need? How do you persuade others to say, shut up and take my money if you've got a startup? Or if you've got a scrappy startup inside of a big company at IBM like I do? How do I pitch to my leadership team to get them to say, shut up and take my money? Which, by the way, I've done. It's also about being motivated, self-motivated. It's not relying on someone else to wake you up in the morning to get you excited and fired up about your job. You got to do that yourself. Nobody else cares. Sometimes people care for a hot minute, but you're the one who has to care about your career. You're the one who has to think about your purpose, your passion, how that incorporates into your day job. What are the things that are important to you in terms of your achievements, your recognition, your relationship with your boss? Are you fired up to wake up in the morning to say, I'm going to go solve this problem? I'm going to go and make the world a better place. I'm going to go and make a lot of money. I'm going to go and relieve this audience pain point. Do you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go do this thing, whatever that thing is? If not, what are you doing? We spend a lot of time at work. And by the way, it's possible to do well while doing good, meaning you can make money and make the world a better place. There's no trade-off. At one time there was, but now with the entry of conscious capitalism or corporate social responsibility, we can do both at the same time. For those of you who have more altruistic views about, who are you, what do you want to be in your job? And if it's more than just coming in and making a salary and doing the thing. We've also learned that, we gotta have resilience. Things are not going to go as planned. We got to roll with the punches. The world is a dumpster fire and we have to navigate our way around that and within it to make the most of it, to use it toward our advantage and toward the advantage of those around us. but it's also learning how to imposter a little bit, meaning sometimes you're going to feel like an imposter. Sometimes you're going to feel like you don't belong. You don't deserve a seat at the table. Other people are smarter than you. Get used to it. Embrace it. And recognize that we all have our superpowers. I'm never going to be good at doing expense reports. I'm never going to be good at developing mobile applications. I'm never going to be a systems admin. I'm never going to be a Z application developer. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a data scientist. I'm good at building communities. I'm good at building networks. I'm good at being innovative and creative. But I need to work with people who are more competent than me when it comes to building actual solutions on the ground, rolling up their sleeves, and being more detail oriented than me. What are your strengths? What are your superpowers? What are the things that you bring to the table? And when are the times where you need to sit back and let someone else, their superpowers, shine? All right, super. So I'll repeat once again, are you prepared for the future of work? You might not be superhuman flying around in a little capsule in the Milky Way, hanging out with Elon Musk, but hey, you're on your way. So again, you can find me at Mentor Africa with a K on Twitter. You've got that in the chat window, plus you've got it right here. So thank you very much for taking the time to hear me out today. I'd love to pause, and I'm open to taking folks off mute. Paul, if anyone might have questions they'd like to ask directly, anything and everything, almost. Don't get us fired, don't bring us to jail, and we're all good.
That's great, Melissa. Thank you. Yeah, so if everybody's happy with that, I will take or ask everybody all to unmute so they can ask any questions or make any comments directly.
Oh, super. So I see there's a question around me recommending Daniel Goleman and any other books worth taking a look at. Yeah. My friend Donna Sukkar wrote a book on imposter syndrome banishing spell. Let me grab it real quick. I'm just grabbing something from Google or from Amazon.
If anybody wants to say something, just you should be able to unmute yourself now.
There's one book from my friend Donna Sukkar, and I've got another one that I like. And I know both of these authors. They're both actually Microsofties that came from Microsoft, so they're just fresh top of mind. Brand storytelling. Oh, I'm loaded with a cold too, Andrew. It sucks. And I'm supposed to be traveling on Sunday. I hope it goes away because I have lots of people to talk to when I'm in England. So hopefully they want to hear me. All right, so here's the second book. Sorry, that's a really long link there, but that's what I copied and pasted out of Amazon. So brand storytelling and imposter syndrome, a couple books. There are lots of books on, like, you can just Google some of those key terms that I had in my presentation. And what I might do, how much time do we have, Paul, until the session is over?
You've still got 15, you've got 15 minutes.
Super. What I'm going to do really quickly.
From Herb as well.
Super. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take my presentation and I'm going to upload it into SlideShare, and I'm going to add a link to this presentation in SlideShare. So give me 1 second.
Hello.
Hi, Christian.
Hello, Melissa. How are you?
I'm swell. How are you today?
Yeah, well, so it's raining where I am, so it's not as sunny as in Texas.
Don't worry, it's rainy here too. It's usually not, but yesterday it was rainy, and go figure, I'm supposed to move houses today. I was supposed to do it yesterday, and it's been raining for 2 days. I have no idea how I'm going to do what I need to do.
Me neither, because I have to move houses as well next month. So.
Oh, there you go. Well,
yeah,
you're gonna have more rain than me, I'm sure.
Definitely. One quick question: that IBM Student Hub does have any age limit? I'm asking for my son. He's 15 and he would like to start. Well, at the moment, he likes to start a career in mainframes. So.
Oh, super. Yeah, it depends on where you are. Typically, it's 16 and up. So my recommendation for you would be for you to set up an account for him. and to do it with your information and then just supervise him. There's nothing in the IBM Z Global Student Hub that will be controversial or I think bad for a 15-year-old. Some of the stuff might be a little bit more advanced for him, but we have a few things that I think could be interesting in the IBM Z Global Student Hub. I would say one of the things that we're getting ready to launch is Hour of Z, which is a mobile application. Technically, we did a soft launch. You can find it in the iOS store. We haven't told anybody it's there. I guess we have now. It's not available in Android yet. We're waiting to do the launch. Once it's available in the Android store. It's about an hour long. You can learn an introduction to what is IBM Z, what are mainframes, what is enterprise computing. What you can do is, if you don't find that in the store, in the Apple Store, and if you do not have an iPhone, you can add go into the register in the IBM Z Global Student Hub. You can also ask some questions in the IBM Z Global Student Hub and say, hey, what are some interesting avenues there are, for my 15-year-old to explore? We have a student contest that technically is for students 18 and up, but again, I think you could probably sign up for yourself, and then you and your son do it together, which is Z Explore. And you can find that at ibmzexplore.com. I'll put that in the chat window.
Yeah, he's already registered for Z Explorer.
Oh, he is. Okay,
that used to be master the mainframe. So
that is correct.
Yeah, he is registered there already.
Oh, awesome. He's going to be like our future team member. He's going to be our future boss, I bet.
Well, I don't know, because at the moment he doesn't know very well what he wants. He likes mainframes, but he's more into building stuff. So probably he will be into that career of assembly.
Maybe he could end up being a mechanical engineer, or maybe he'll be, more hardware. We'll see.
In your hardware department, probably.
Sure. Hey, we'll have him. We got to get him ready.
Okay, thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much. And I'm just uploading this presentation into SlideShare, so it'll take a second. Or you know what? I might even actually have it prepared for the future. Give me 1 second. I might actually have this presentation already in SlideShare. I'm just going to look and see if I got it. So give me 1 second. Sometimes I forget what I upload and what I don't. Oh, awesome. I do have it. Good news. Okay, so let me add this to the chat window. Title's not the same, but the presentation is pretty much the same. So I just added a link to the slides today. So trends, what kind of trends am I seeing in my work with the Hyperprotect Accelerator? I'm seeing that companies are increasingly becoming worried, small companies, startups, about data protection, privacy, and security, and realizing that the world is becoming an even more challenging place when it comes to not only adhering to regulatory requirements as those apply to data protection, privacy, and security, but also thinking about doing the right thing. Meaning, I'm not going to just deploy tech and education and tools to protect my customer data because the government says I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. That's one thing I'm seeing. I'm also seeing a trend where previously companies would look at protecting personally identifiable information to the furthest extent possible. But companies that weren't touching personally identifiable information maybe were not as concerned about data protection, privacy, and security. Okay. And what I'm seeing now is IBM Z is becoming more relevant in circles outside of financial services and healthcare. And what I mean by that is we have implemented or created a new solution called the IBM Cloud Hyperprotect Services. It's essentially Z in the cloud. It's essentially a Linux One machine that you are sharing with others. It's available in a number of different data centers from around the world, including within the UK. And companies are utilizing space from that machine versus buying their own mainframe, because not everybody, including a startup, has the funding to be able to have an on-prem solution. May not be part of their strategy for this, that, and the other. And what we're seeing is companies that are interested in protecting their IP by running on the most secure server on the planet are turning to Linux One machines, which is really interesting. Before, like 3 years ago, I couldn't get anybody to listen to me around why the mainframe would be relevant for them in their business if they weren't touching personally identifiable information, or if they weren't interested in an on-prem solution. Now, people like Timbaland, ed tech companies, are interested in saying, no, we want to protect our student data. No, we want to protect our IP. Give us the strongest, most robust, most secure server on the planet. So that's something I think has been pretty cool. Interesting. So Herb is talking about, any connections between the skills you're talking about and discussions happening now at COP26. I was supposed to be at COP26. I got invited to go to COP26 and speak, but some UN framework, I don't know, bureaucracy got in the way, and I wasn't on some master list with party A, but I was with party B, and we couldn't get the two parties to talk together, so I'm not there. Yeah, I think the skills of the future are what will require us to think about how do we protect our planet? How do we think about climate action? Solving the UN Sustainable Development Goals requires technology. It requires people who are able to think critically, to innovate, to create, to make, to do things differently, to connect things that weren't connected before, to be innovators and do things in a way that has never been done. Because we know if we continue to do things the way that they've always been done, we'll continue to get the results that we've always had. All right, thank you, Andrew, about my slides and all that stuff. I appreciate it. All right, super. Just kind of looking around. All right, super. What tech trends should students be looking into? I think there's a lot going on when it comes to data protection, privacy, and security. Cool opportunities in InfoSec. Love that in terms of growing opportunities. It's only going to become more challenging as we have a proliferation of apps, proliferation of data being the new gold. Similarly, looking at careers in AI and machine learning. We are going to need to be focused on the ethics associated with AI. So as we go out and create solutions, really understanding bias, really understanding emotional intelligence, and not just thinking about how do I create this algorithm? How do I implement this solution? How do I create this technology to solve this specific problem? But how do I do so in an ethical fashion that really truly captures the needs, the wants, the aspirations, and pain points, morality, ethics of what I'm creating? Okay. So I think those are, kind of three things. I think IoT, lots of opportunity in the IoT space. I think blockchain, tons of opportunity that I think is still yet to come to the forefront. I think that there are many different opportunities from an industry perspective, lots of disruption happening in fintech and all over the place, every single industry that is continuing to disrupt, thanks to technology. Lots more to come as well, as I mentioned. And as lots of people talk about careers, there's so many careers out there that haven't even been invented yet. Okay, so let's see what else we got going on. All right, any last questions? I will add my Twitter handle again for anyone who wants to stay connected. If you think of anything later, you can always register for the Student Hub or the Educator Hub, come in and ask a question in the discussion tab. And by the way, if you register for the Student Hub today, I'm going to spend some of IBM's money and I'm going to feed one child for the day. Okay, so if you register for the Student Hub, we're going to feed one child for the day, and that's going to World Food Program's Share the Meal. We're going to do that not only today, but until the end of the year. So I'm going to add that in the chat window once again. If you want to help spend IBM's money to feed those in need. There we go. All right. So I don't see any other questions. Paul, I think we're good to go ahead and close this out. Thank our audience and wish everyone a wonderful rest of your conference.
Fantastic, Melissa. Thank you very much. Great presentation as always, and very engaging. And
thank you.
for
And my voice
the
didn't
You hung up.
it held out. Like I will tell you, it's
Fantastic.
definitely on fire, but it was well worth it. So thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you for gracing me with your presence.
Thanks very much. Thanks, guys. Just a reminder, this session was 8AK, and I know Melissa would appreciate any feedback you have. Fantastic.
Yeah, say
Thanks, guys.
awesome
I'll
things.
close
But if
it
it's
now.
sucked, feel free to give that as well so we can learn. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon.